What's going on, guys? Today I am going to be giving my full review of Necromancy as a combat style and as a skill. So if you want to sit with me and listen, then stay tuned and hear what I have to say about Necromancy. Oh, we're so close. And just like that, no more XP once again. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about kind of the good and bad things about Necromancy, as well as at the end of the video, I'm probably going to be going over a few ways that I would probably fix Necromancy or make it a little bit more user-friendly. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a long video, random background footage, I don't really know what I'm going to put there, but yeah. Let's get right into this. So I'm going to start this out by going over the things that I think are good about Necromancy. There are quite a few things that I think are, really well done with Necromancy. There are things that are good with Necromancy, and I'm glad I waited because if I gave my initial review, I would have really disliked this skill. But now that I've played with it a little bit more, I definitely like it more than I thought, or I initially thought I would. So yeah, let's get right into it. So for some of the things I like about Necromancy is, like, the first one, as a combat style, it feels like it fits in the game pretty well. Like, it doesn't feel like just some random thing added in. It feels like it, not like it's meant to be there, but it doesn't feel like it's not meant to be there, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain that. It definitely doesn't feel like it should be in the game, but it like feels like it's okay actually being there now that it is there. I just don't really think Necromancy makes a lot of sense being in this game, especially in this like weird form where the devs try to make you like the good guy. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's really stupid. But yeah, pretty, it feels like it's okay now that it's like in the game, right? The abilities cast like Runescape abilities, most of them are pretty fine, from as far as I could tell. So the next thing is the abilities I think are really good for like AoEing and for single target. So I think they off the bat gave a pretty good mix. And then there's also the Threads of Fate ability, which is just absolutely insane, what you're able to do with it. So yeah, it feels like the abilities are pretty solid. I like what most of them do. Obviously there are some Blood Siphon that are worthless garbage, but for the most part, the abilities feel fine. I think the only issue I really have, besides Blood Siphon just being trash, is Bloat. I kind of just wish Bloat had a cooldown. I don't know. It feels like Bloat is... It's hard to use it because it doesn't have a cooldown, in a Revo bar at least. And I don't know. It feels like an ability that should have a cooldown, especially given that it has an adrenaline cost. I don't know. It just feels weird. I don't really like the idea of abilities that don't have cooldowns either. You can get them to work in your Revo bars, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels like they're awkward not having a cooldown, especially for the single issue of back-to-back casts. If there was like an option to not cast the same ability twice in a row, that might help them. But yeah, I don't really like the like back-to-back casting, mostly with like Bloat and Finger of Death. I'm sure we've all had it where you like Finger of Death and then Finger of Death again and just dump your adrenaline. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird how they do that. But if that's what they're going for, you definitely are able to make bars that work with that concept. The next thing that I think is really good, as always, the environmental art is really good. The city of looks amazing. I like most of the areas. The gear looks really nice. So I think a lot of the graphics for Necromancy look really, really nice. And Jagex always does a pretty good job of the environmental art. Places like Karjama and stuff, the rework to that, it all looks really, really nice. So I think they do a good job with that pretty much every single time. And yeah, City of really looks good. The next thing is the abilities. The way that the abilities are structured, I think makes a lot of sense. Like, you don't have to be some expert PVMer to like figure out how Necromancy works, right? It's like you use skulls and then you use Living Death to reset your skulls, and like that's pretty much what you do to DPS. It's very straightforward, but it's also got a lot of room for like micromanaging your abilities and really getting a lot of extra DPS if you know what you're doing. I think there's a lot of room for skill expression with this, so that's pretty good. I'm going to be getting into some problems with the abilities, mainly the conjures, but I think other than the conjures, the abilities themselves feel really, really nice. So yeah, that's really good. The next thing is, I think the skill is easily expandable. Like, I can see a ton of room for potential future upgrades with Necromancy, which I think is really good. There's a lot of room to just expand areas and give new rituals, and there's like a ton of room to like expand into a bunch of different types of content with Necromancy, so I think that's really, really good. It's a good thing to have content that you can actually expand on. I think Jagex has been notorious lately for releasing content that is just pointless, unexpandable, like just existing for the sake of making content, but like, I don't know. So I think it's good that it actually has potential to be, expanded upon in the future pretty significantly, kind of like archaeology. So overall, I don't think the skill is nearly as good as archaeology. Yeah, it's just not, it's not that. It's not even close, really. I think archaeology was just like the ultimate skill, and even though this one's like technically more useful for combat or whatever, yeah, I don't know. It's just it seems really like lacking, I guess. So now I'm gonna get into a few of the things that I think are not so great about Necromancy, and yeah, that's one of them. Is the skill in its current state feels very lacking, and I think that's because Jagex has very clearly batched this update. I mean, it's obvious, right? There's only 2 task set tiers, not 4 like there always is. So yeah, pretty clear that this update was batched out, and I will never really be a fan of batching updates. I think the main content should be released at the same time, and then if you want to expand on it in the future, that's fine. But I think the initial release should always have like all of the content. This is one of the things I dislike the most about Fort 4 and 3 is that was batched into like 7 or 8 updates, and realistically it was like 1 or 2 updates worth of stuff. They just batched it out a million times and acted like they had all this content when it was, I don't know. I just don't like the batched updates. I feel like it really holds back the release. Like, this release would have been so much better, I think, if it just had all of the content at once, I guess. So the next thing that I really dislike is going to be the adren cost of the conjures. There are a bunch of problems that I have with the conjures, and they can very easily be fixed, which is good. You pretty much could fix all of the problems with the conjures by reducing the adrenaline cost of a few of the things that cost a lot. And you can do this a few ways, right? You can make it be affected by the Ring of Vigor and like conservation of energy. That would help a lot. Or just straight up reduce the adrenaline cost. I don't know. But yeah, the adrenaline cost for specifically the Ghost is way too high. I mean, I get the Ghost is good, but it's so hard to cast this thing in combat that it, I think, really makes the combat style feel like not great. Yeah, that's definitely not good. You could easily solve this problem by making a Conjure All button and, yeah, obviously reducing the adrenaline cost, which the Conjure All button, that's the second big problem I have with Conjures. The Conjures, it doesn't feel bad having to command them, but I honestly feel like the amount of time that you have to spend commanding and summoning and like all that stuff with these Conjures, I think really takes away from them. It, I don't know, they just don't feel nearly as good to use because it just wastes so much time to use them. And it's such a bummer that it's like that. I don't know, it just, I really don't like how the Conjures cost so much and take so much time. Like, before every single kill, you're sitting there, you know, summoning 3 Conjures. When you first start a kill, you have to summon your zombie, summon your skeleton, summon your ghost, life transfer, then you have to command the ghost, and then you have to command the skeleton warrior, right, as the kill starts, as you then also would be target cycling, vuln bombing, doing all that stuff. With all of these other things that you're doing, I feel like the process of summoning or conjuring all of these creatures is just too much. It's just way too much to be doing, I think, and you know, if you just made a very simple conjure all button, it would solve all those problems, right? It'd be one button click and then command command, which would be so much better than, you know, like 5 button clicks. Replace that with like 3 button clicks. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, if you're just sitting there having to do that after every single kill, it does definitely get pretty tedious. Yeah, I don't know. The conjures definitely could use a little bit of work. They definitely don't feel good to use in their current state. They feel fine when they're out, but I don't know. Just the micromanaging you have to do with these guys while you're also attacking is just so annoying. It's just not good. I don't know. Especially for kills that last longer than like a minute or two. It's just awful having to deal with these conjures. I really hate it. It feels terrible. So yeah, that definitely takes away from this quite a bit. Anyway, one of the other problems I have with Necromancy is this Blood Siphon ability. Now, obviously, it's a trash ability, and that's like whatever. You could just like not use it, and it wouldn't even matter. But I feel like it's weird that the skill released with this ability that is just so much worse than everything else. Honestly, it's so much worse than like everything else in the game. It's just weird that they would release this ability. It also doesn't work very well with like Revo. I don't know. I feel like the Blood Siphon ability should just like fully be reworked and make it like a tendril or something like that. I don't know. It's just terrible. I don't really know what to say about it. It's just trash. Next up is the rituals. So I don't really know how to put it, but the rituals feel kind of useless. Like, I feel like almost nothing really comes from the rituals. You know, the ectoplasm is just like a byproduct of it. Like, I don't know, that could have come from a lot of different places, I think. And it coming from rituals feels a little weird. But other than that, the only other thing that really comes from the rituals is the, obviously the gear, but you also only really get the essence. That's the only thing that really seems to come from the rituals is the essence. Everything else you need in such small quantities that it, you know, it's whatever, like the communion things, you have to use or do 30,000 of them. But once you do them, you know, it's like a one-time type deal. And then, yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of stuff comes from the rituals currently, which could easily be fixed, like I said before, with new content. But yeah, I don't know. The rituals currently just feel kind of useless. I also feel like it'd be cool if there was more ritual boards. I don't know. Like maybe you could have like different areas with different ritual boards so you could like do different things there. I think there's a lot of room to like make good content with this, but unfortunately, I don't know if Jagex is creative enough to actually pull it off. Like I could see the rituals really being useful and cool and do a lot of stuff, but you have to have a pretty good idea of what you're doing if you're going to pull that off. And I really don't think the current dev team is capable of that based on everything I've seen from the past year and a half. You know, not to like throw any shade on them, but I just don't really think they're capable of it, which is very unfortunate, I guess. Anyway, the next thing that this really bothered me, I'm not gonna lie. The way that you make the runes is so stupid that I don't even know what to say. The rune crafting altars is 4 altars on a tiny plot of land up on some hill. You just go through a portal and all of these altars are just there. It feels so lazily made. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't really follow any of the ways that you make runes in the game. Like, you don't have to use a talisman. All of them are just in one place. I don't know. It really, it just feels like they just scrapped something together in like 10 minutes and we're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like they just got it out there. Instead of making it like quality content, they just like rushed it and made something that just, it feels so bad. Like, it's so stupid. All of the altars are just in one place on some like small plot of land. It's so like, I don't know. Like, that's clearly just lazy. I don't really know what else to say. But yeah, that definitely is something that I noticed like immediately. When I first saw that, I like laughed. I was just like, what is this? Like, this is the best they could do? Like, come on. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but it definitely like feels like lazily designed or something. Like they just didn't try. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of funny. And then the final thing that I at least have listed down here is that half finished on release thing. I already kind of mentioned this, but The batch release, like clearly Necromancy is like half finished, right? There's only half the task set. The rituals really don't have a whole lot of usage, that type of stuff. It just doesn't feel like the skill is fully finished on release. You know what I mean? Like, Archaeology came out and it felt finished on release, whereas Necromancy came out and it literally feels like, you know, half finished or maybe 75% finished. It's kind of a bummer that they didn't just go all the way and finish this skill. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely takes away from the experience, I think. One other dislike that I just thought about really is I really think Jagex should have reworked the other combat styles when they did this update. I think making Necromancy have a 30,000 hit cap and like a different way critical strikes work without, you know, at the same time updating the other styles, I think really causes a lot of problems with the other styles, like literally just feeling like worthless garbage content. It like, yeah, I don't know, like nothing can compete with Necromancy. It just does so much damage. And now that they nerfed the Fracture Staff's functionality, you know, I don't know, it just feels like there's not a lot you can do with the other combat styles. They seem very limited, right? Like range, you're stuck with the bow. Like your enchanted bolts have so many effects, but you basically can't use dual wields very efficiently. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like the other combat styles, they're just like there at this point when they probably shouldn't feel that bad, and they probably wouldn't feel that bad, especially melee, if they had the 30,000 hit cap. And I think it would have been a better way to balance the combat styles by releasing all of this stuff at once, rather than only releasing Necromancy and yeah, then just doing like melee magic and range later. I don't know, it just feels like wrong and weird. Like now we're at a state where like Necromancy is just so much better than everything else. It's just crazy. I don't know, it just feels like not great. So Jagex has fixed quite a few of the bugs with Necromancy, which is part of the reason why I wanted to wait to make this video. You know, right, like the ritual board had so many block tiles, it was so inconvenient, and like the way that the little special events were was kind of ridiculous and just like not very interactive. But they fixed most of that, which is really, really good that they like got that out of the way early. But there are still quite a few bugs or like weird things that I noticed with Necromancy. So first up is the conjure and the like conjure whatever creature and command creature aren't the same ability. Like they don't work the same way. So you'll see if I target this dummy and I stand out of range and I spam the conjure button, it has to run into range before it can conjure. And now I'll probably turn my Revo off. All right, so then if I'm out of range here, actually here, let's summon this guy. If I'm out of range here, you can watch my zombie. He is right here in the back, I guess. If I hit this, I can command the zombie, as long as I'm in combat, I think, I can command the zombie to explode. So the zombie just blows up, and I can command the skeleton warrior from back here, and he can, like you see, he starts going in from way back. But if I am out of range when I try to conjure this guy, like right now, like let's say I'm out of range like this, I have to run in range to be able to conjure, and it just doesn't feel very good. Like it is so annoying the way that this works, especially if you're trying to deal with mechanics while you're like summoning the guy. It just really doesn't feel good that like, first off, the abilities don't really seem to work the same way, even though it's the same ability. Like that's kind of annoying and inconsistent, and it's kind of annoying that I can't just summon my guy when I'm out of range. Like there should be no reason for that to happen. I feel like you should just be able to summon the guy. Like, yeah, if I'm targeting something, it should take adrenaline, but like I don't see why I can't summon the guy just by my side if I'm out of range of the boss. It just feels terrible. So one other issue I've noticed with the conjures is if you use command and it has a cooldown, it'll gray out the ability, but if the conjure dies, then the conjure icon will still be grayed out, but you can cast it. And this is mainly an issue I've noticed with Revolution. Like I think maybe they fixed this, or maybe I'm like remembering wrong, but it seemed like on Revolution, because the ability was grayed out, it wouldn't cast it, even though it would still like technically be able to if you manually casted it. And I think that was a massive problem. Maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe I'm like remembering wrong. Maybe that was the site that did that, but all right, so I'm gonna be testing that now to see exactly what I was talking about. I don't know if it still works like this. So basically what we do is we command the skeleton warrior. You can see I just command or summon him, and we can command him. And then you see it is grayed out. And now if I unequip the lantern, he should go away. And now I think I can resummon him again. And you see, as it was grayed out like that, I could still resummon the guy. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird how that works. I'm not entirely sure how it works with Revo. I feel like in the past, what happened was because it was grayed out, it wouldn't actually try to cast the ability, even though, like I just showed, you can manually cast the resummon ability and it will summon it. Yeah, so I think that has been a big problem. It's kind of weird how that works. It's just a graphical bug, but it might actually affect how things work with Revo. Again, I'm not 100% sure with that. I couldn't find any footage of what I was talking about, or like I had to sift through everything to find that. But yeah, I don't know. Really weird, but yeah, the way that this works is a little strange, and it should definitely be fixed. The next thing I had here was the Spectral Scythe, but they fixed that, which is really, really nice. Basically, if you don't know, Spectral Scythe had 3 global cooldowns to be cast, but the problem was if you didn't have Adrenaline and you were on that 3rd global cooldown, it would take the ability away from you, not cast it with Revo, even though if you manually casted it, it would actually cast the ability still. So that was fixed, but yeah, that's really nice that they fixed that. That was a bug though, or I don't know, it was just really weird. So there are some changes that I would probably make to Necromancy to really help it out. Before I get into those though, I think I'm going to give my overall like grading of Necromancy, and I think it is a 70 or a C. And the reason I give it that low of a grading is because of the problems, right? Like the fact that it's half finished on release, the fact that the conjures are just awful to engage with. I don't know. The conjures are just such a pain in the butt, and like clearly I think anybody who used the conjures would notice that. So the fact that they're like that bad on release is really annoying. Yeah, mostly the reconjuring process, not gonna lie. Like reconjuring these things in a longer fight is just disgusting. It's so annoying. I hate it so much. But yeah, so 70%. The skill has a few problems. I easily could see this skill being an A, like a 90 or whatever, 9 out of 10, if Jagex put in the correct changes and the work to like make it get to that point. So hopefully Jagex is capable of that. So the way that I got to a 7 out of 10 or 70% is basically because there are some very clear indicators that the skill isn't completely finished. You know, like there's only 2 tiers of the task set, and some other things like the weird, like where you make the runes is just like one little spot. Like things like that definitely make it seem like it's not finished. And given that we haven't gotten a lot of content in the past year and a half, it seems weird that we would get like an unfinished product for Necromancy. Like it would have been so much nicer to get this as a fully finished thing at, you know, like Archaeology was fully finished on release, but Necromancy isn't. It's just kind of weird. So that's definitely 1 point off for sure. And then I take 2 points off. You know, maybe I would go up to 75%, but 1.5 to 2 points off for the reconjuring process. I don't know. That just really bothers me. It feels like with a skill like Necromancy, I feel like the reconjuring, the whole conjuring system should feel like very smooth and integrated very well into the skill. And to me, at least, it doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense that conjuring the guy costs adrenaline. It's just kind of weird. I can see why commanding them costs adrenaline because it's really OP, and like I definitely see that, but yeah, I don't really see why summoning them costs adrenaline. It probably just shouldn't. But yeah, that's how I got to 7 out of 10. And like I said, if those things got fixed and when the skill is fully released, this easily could go up to like a 9 or even a 9.5 out of 10. So it definitely has potential, I think. It's not a total, like, you know, I know I went over a lot of negative stuff, but it's not like it's terrible or anything. It's actually pretty good. I actually enjoy Necromancy, And I'm very hopeful to see what happens with the other combat styles once they get the changes that Necromancy has, where maybe they go to 120. Definitely the critical hit system changing, as well as the damage caps. I think that would be a really cool thing to see with the other styles. So I definitely want to see, you know, what this all brings in. And, you know, not seeing that with the initial release kind of bums me out, because I think it would have been so much more interesting if we had this, you know, massive thing. But yeah, that's just how I got to that. What do you guys think? You think that's fair? Or yeah, just want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Before I end this video, I want to make a few notes about ways to change Necromancy that I think would bring it in a really, really positive direction and really solve a lot of these problems that I brought up. So the first one is going to be a conjure all and maybe even a command all button. And then in conjunction with that, I think the conjuring of familiars or conjures or whatever you want to call them should not take any adrenaline. I think these things costing adrenaline to summon kind of screws up your whole like rotations and everything. It's just more annoying and like just feels like it shouldn't be like that more than anything. So I definitely think they should just, you know, remove the summon cost, especially because like the way you use a lot of these conjures is you just like summon them before a fight with no target, so it doesn't cost anything anyway. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like really dumb that, you know, if you don't have a target, it's like free, but then you have a target and it just becomes so expensive, like adrenaline expensive, that it's almost like not even worth using half these things. Yeah, I don't know. So I think a conjure all button, 100% worth it. And then maybe reworking how the adrenaline costs are and things like that is another great thing to do. I think the next thing is the rituals need more uses. The rituals, you know, like I said, feel kind of useless. Like, I don't know, nothing really comes from them besides the runes. So I think the rituals probably should have some more uses. But yeah, that just seems like the combat style, or the update, I mean, wasn't finished on release. And then obviously, Blood Siphon should just be reworked. That ability is trash. Honestly speaking, the way I would fix Blood Siphon is add a greater ability to the Hermit boss drop. Hermit doesn't have any drops, so I think adding like a Blood Siphon ability codex to that would be really great, because Blood Siphon's like a noob ability anyway, so having a noob ability from a newbie boss is probably a good thing, especially since the boss doesn't actually have any drops, it just has the plates. But like, I don't know. So the final problem that I have with Necromancy is that the gear is maybe just a little bit too accessible. I know people really like the accessibility of Necromancy, but honestly, the tier 90 gear is like insanely cheap. It costs almost nothing. Like, I'm pretty sure it costs less than 100 mil, and you get this tier 90 set that is incredibly powerful. And I'm all for people having access to like high level gear and content like this, but maybe it's a little too cheap. You know, it seems like you don't really use that many resources to make the tier 90 set, especially the weapons. I think the weapons should be more expensive to make. I'm definitely fine with them being, you know, like challenges to get those weapons. I think those feel fair, and I really like that you can do the tank challenges, which are longer but easier to get the tier 90 weapons. Like, I really like that part. But yeah, like I said, it is incredibly cheap and easy to get the tier 90s, and I feel like it, one, like destroys Iron Man mode, because why would you do anything other than Necromancy on Iron Man? Like, it makes no sense. You literally get something stronger than an FSOA basically for like free almost, and like you don't have to kill a boss or anything for it. It's actually insane. Yeah, and the second one is I just think it's too cheap. Like, this should definitely, like, something as powerful as the tier 90 set should definitely probably cost a little bit to make, right? Like, it should use a fair amount of supplies and resources from the game, because yeah, like I said, right now it just literally feels like everybody gets a tier 90 set for basically free. It's insane. I don't know, no other tier 90 set is like that. And yeah, I think it should cost more. That's about it. But yeah, those are my thoughts, kind of just like the ramblings of me, I guess. So what do you guys think about Necromancy? Am I in the right? Am I in the wrong? Like, I definitely can see, I see a lot of people really liking Necromancy, and I'm not trying to say it's like a bad skill. I'm just saying it has a lot of problems. But yeah, what do you guys think? And if anybody made it this far, thanks for watching. Definitely drop a like on the video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.